Meantime, Hugh Hefner's widow, Crystal Hefner, wants to keep his so-called sex diary private. She's sounding the alarm over concerns linked to her late husband's personal archives. She's urging officials in California and Illinois to investigate the way in which these personal files reportedly held by the Hugh Hefner Foundation are being safeguarded. The archives date back to the 60s, include nude images, possibly of underage girls, and Hefner's so-called personal sex diary. She was speaking alongside her attorney, Gloria Allred, today in Los Angeles. Crystal Hefner warned that a security breach could harm many women. She claims she was removed from the Hefner Foundation's board just yesterday after she raised these concerns.
This is a civil rights issue. Women's bodies are not property, not history, and not collectibles. And no organization should be allowed to claim the language of civil rights while denying women their most basic one, the right to control their own bodies and images.
And Attorney Allred added that some images may involve women who couldn't consent because of their age. So far, the Hefner Foundation, headquartered in Illinois, has not commented.
Thank you for coming today. I'm attorney Gloria Allred, and with me to my left is Crystal Hefner, and to my right is my associate, actually now a partner in our law firm, Allred, Morocco and Goldberg, and her name is Olivia Fleshig. I'm going to read a statement, then Crystal will read a statement. And then we will be happy to answer questions. We are here today, and we will give you copies of our statements as soon as we conclude. We are here today with our client, Crystal Hefner, to announce that today we filed regulatory complaints with both the Attorneys General of California and Illinois regarding the Hugh M. Hefner Foundation. Specifically, we are asking that the Attorneys General initiate a prompt and thorough investigation of the Hugh M. Hefner Foundation's actions with regard to the late Hugh Hefner's collection of approximately 3,000 personal scrapbooks containing thousands of nude images of women, as well as Hefner's diary containing highly personal information regarding his sexual exploits, including names of women he slept with, notes describing the sex acts that they performed, and in some instances, even information tracking women's menstrual cycles. It is our honor to represent Crystal Hefner, who is not only Hugh Hefner's widow, but she's also a brilliant, outspoken advocate for women's rights. Crystal did not consent to having her intimate images stored by and accessible to the foundation. And we believe that many of the other women and/or girls depicted did not consent either. After she voiced her concerns yesterday, Crystal was unilaterally removed as the chief executive officer of the foundation. Crystal has therefore courageously chosen to speak out on this issue today, not only on her own behalf, but on behalf of thousands of other women and possibly girls who are depicted in the scrapbooks and/or referenced in Hugh Hefner's personal sex diary. Crystal is especially concerned that these scrapbooks could contain images of minor girls. Minors cannot legally or morally give their consent to be photographed naked or in sexual positions, and the law is unequivocal that the possession, digitization, and/or distribution of naked and/or sexual images of minors is illegal. Moreover, Crystal is also concerned that some of the images in the scrapbooks may have been taken without the informed consent of the adult women depicted, such as while they were intoxicated. Adult women also have the legal right not to have their intimate photos digitized and shared without their consent, even if the original photo was taken with their consent. Any distribution of the images without their consent is not just a legal violation, it's also a violation of their reasonable expectation of privacy and bodily autonomy. And in the digital age, this harm can be irreparable and immeasurable. We have therefore chosen to file 2 separate complaints, one in California, because the foundation is registered to do business in California, and it is where the foundation's principal place of business is located, and one in Illinois, because it is where the foundation was and is incorporated. We ask that Attorney General Rob Bonta of California and Attorney General Kwame Raoul of Illinois not only investigate this issue, but also take all appropriate remedial action to secure the intimate images of women in the scrapbooks and the private information about women's sex lives and bodies mentioned in the diary. These attorney generals are tasked with overseeing nonprofit organizations, including the Hugh M. Hefner Foundation. Crystal and the other thousands of women depicted in the scrapbooks and or written about in Hugh M. Hefner's diary deserve the assurance that these images and this information will be handled with the utmost care and security and will never be accessed or distributed to anyone or any entity. We look forward to the response of the Attorneys General to our complaint. And now we can change seats, and then you can sit over here. Okay. You can sit down.
Hi.
This is Crystal Hefner.
I'm speaking today for myself and for countless other women whose naked and sexually explicit images are being kept without our consent in approximately 3,000 scrapbooks, which belong to my late husband, Hugh Hefner. It is critical for the public to understand that I'm not referring to images that appeared in magazines. My focus is on how Hugh Hefner's personal scrapbooks chronicle private moments that took place behind closed doors. There are serious and unresolved concerns about the scope of what these books contain. The material spanned decades, beginning in the 1960s, and may include images of girls who were underage at the time and could not consent to how their images would be retained or controlled. They may also contain images of women who did not consent to their images being taken in the first place. The scrapbooks include nude images, images taken before, after, and during sexual activity, and other deeply intimate moments. They contain intimate material involving women who are now mothers, grandmothers, professionals, and private citizens who have spent decades building their lives with no idea these images were still being hoarded. I believe they include women and possibly girls who never agreed to lifelong private possession of their naked images and who have no transparency into where their photos are, how they are being stored, or what will happen to them next. These are the reasons why I am filing complaints with the Attorneys General of California and Illinois and requesting that they initiate an investigation into how these images are being handled and stored. This is not historical documentation. This is the cataloging and objectification of women's most private details. Today, I am told the scrapbooks are in a storage facility in California. However, I was previously told that some of the scrapbooks could be inside a private residence to be scanned and digitized. This is not archival preservation. This is not history. This is control. I am deeply worried about these images getting out. Artificial intelligence, deepfakes, digital scanning, online marketplaces, and data breaches mean that once images leave secure custody, the harm is irreversible. A single security failure could devastate thousands of lives. These materials are now being kept under the guise of a charitable organization, the Hugh M. Hefner Foundation, which publicly claims to stand for civil rights and civil liberties. The hypocrisy is as disturbing as it is obvious. I stayed involved with the Hugh M. Hefner Foundation in part because I'm worried about these books and the women in them, and I hope the harm could finally be addressed. Instead, I was asked to resign from my role on the Foundation's board and was excluded from the Foundation's decision-making. The concerns I raised about consent, safety, and security were ignored. Though I declined to resign my position, yesterday, in direct response to my escalating concerns regarding the handling of private photos contained in the scrapbooks, I was unilaterally removed from my position as the Chief Executive Officer / President of the Foundation. Unlike me, the people who have custody of these scrapbooks do not have their own naked images in these books. They are not personally exposed, and they are not personally at risk. The burden and the danger fall entirely on us, the women in the photos. Women have the right to bodily autonomy. We have the right to control our own likeness. We have the right to say that intimate images created under unequal conditions do not get to follow us for the rest of our lives. This is not about money. I am seeking dignity, safety, and the destruction of non-consensual intimate materials so that the exploitation does not continue under the banner of philanthropy. Thousands of women may be affected. This is a civil rights issue. Women's bodies are not property, not history, and not collectibles. And no organization should be allowed to claim the language of civil rights while denying women their most basic one, the right to control their own bodies and images. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're not going to be handing out a copy of the complaints we filed. However, you can stand up, and you can stand up too. Okay. So, excuse me. Whoops. All right. We have redacted this, which I'll show you, which is the California complaint to the California Attorney General. And you can hold this. And Crystal's holding a confirmation of the complaint that we filed, Office of the Illinois Attorney General, Kwame Raoul. The complaint to the California Attorney General is something that has to be mailed, not emailed. So basically, this is the complaint form, and this is the letter that we sent by certified mail this morning to the California Attorney General. And this is the confirmation of the email complaint that we sent to the Illinois Attorney General, which was capable of being filed online with the Attorney General. So this is the confirmation that we sent it. So now, one more time, we can go with. This is the form for there, and this is, you can hold this one. So these are the forms that we sent today with our complaint, unredacted, to the Attorneys General. Okay, so now I'll be happy to take some questions. You can sit down. Okay, thank you. Crystal is not going to be answering any questions. So if you have any, I'll be happy to answer them. One second here. Yes, would you identify yourself if you're...
Emily Valdez with KNX News.
Hi.
Hi. You don't have to name names, but I'm just curious, who is on this foundation board? Is it his relatives or former employees? Or?
Okay, so your question is who's on the foundation's board? Right. Is it relatives or other people? I can tell you that there are now no longer any relatives of Hugh Hefner on the Hugh M. Hefner Foundation board. At one point, Christy Hefner was on the board. Cameron, Mr. Hefner's son, was on the board. And then Crystal was on the board along with two other people. None of them are now on the board. That's all I can say.
And my other question is, what do they want to do with these photos?
What do they?
What does the foundation want to do with these photos? Do they want to sell them? What is their end goal?
I'm going to ask you to ask them what their plan is. We are informed that they are digitizing them, but that there are not plans to distribute them. But as Crystal has so wisely pointed out, if they're digitizing them, which may not be against the law, what are they planning to do after they digitize them? Or is it going to forever be digitized but never distributed to anyone, to any university, to any individual, or will they ever be sold? Some of Mr. Hefner's private items have been sold to raise funds for the foundation. So we have a concern. We don't know.
Gloria Justin from Fox 11. What is your ultimate hope through this legal action, and would you like to see them destroyed? What do you want done with the structures?
Well, if in fact there is no proof of written consent by an adult female, then I think the question is, did that female give consent? And even if she did she give informed consent? For example, was she under the influence of alcohol when she gave that consent? That is something that I think we'd like the attorneys general to look into. And then, of course, another issue has to do with the privacy of the adult women. We don't know if they knew that they were being videoed and photographed before, during, and after they were having sex. That is something that we'd like the Attorney General to look into. Another issue, again, is that if any of the photographs are of underage girls, they cannot legally consent. In other words, even if they signed a release or a consent form, they can't legally consent. So those photos should never be out there. And personally, I don't think those photos should ever have been taken and then digitized. Would you like to add anything to this, Olivia?
No, I think that's right.
Just, do you want to see them destroyed?
Pardon me?
Would you like to see the scrapbooks destroyed?
Well, we'd like the rights of women and girls to be protected, and so we will leave it to the attorney generals to determine how best to protect those items. The fact that Mr. Hefner left these items to the foundation, if he did, and by the way, we don't have any evidence one way or another of whether in fact he did that, because we don't have any copy of any will or trust or legal document which proves that he left it to the foundation. We're not saying he didn't, we're not saying he did, we just are aware that they have them. But, so we'd like the attorney generals to investigate and determine what they think is appropriate given their investigation. Again, if any of the photographs are pornographic, definitely they can't be distributed and shouldn't be even maintained if they're of underage females. If they are of adult women, it's still illegal to distribute pornographic photographs and or video, even if they are of adult women. So, obviously, they shouldn't be. That should be something that the Attorney Generals look into.
I do recall Crystal saying that she wanted them destroyed.
Well, I'm saying that would be a goal if, in fact, the Attorney Generals determine that that would be appropriate once they view or become aware of these materials. We're not against that, but I'm saying that would be one remedy, and that's an important goal, but in the alternative, they've got to be kept secure, and there has to be some written confirmation that they will never be distributed, ever. So we don't have an answer to why they're being digitized and what will happen in the future to those. I mean, if they digitize them and don't distribute them, and they're adult females who can consent, that's one thing. But if they do distribute them in the future, either selling them or donating them or in some way providing them to another person or entity, that's against the law. Your question?
I do have a question, and are you asking or going to be asking for an injunction and them digitizing this while the process is ongoing to stop what they're doing?
Do you want to answer that, Olivia?
Yeah, I will say an injunction might be one appropriate remedy that the attorneys general might be able to make. As Gloria said, digitization of nude or sexualized images of minor girls, that's illegal, even without distribution. And so that might be an appropriate remedy. I just had one additional word also on the destruction issue. Just to add clarity to how Crystal has described what she saw in the 3,000 scrapbooks, some of it is, non-sexual, non-naked images, right? It's things like press clippings, other memorabilia, personal memorabilia. So, there's a distinction between, are we advocating for the destruction of the entire 3,000 scrapbooks and, the things that do not depict women or possibly girls naked? Not necessarily, right? We're imploring the attorneys general to appropriately investigate, but we do just want to draw the distinction. We're not necessarily sitting here today saying that all 3,000 scrapbooks in their entirety must be destroyed, but we are extremely concerned with the private images.
I want to say one other thing about the Hugh Hefner private diaries describing his sex life with a number of different partners. We are concerned because we don't know where they are. The foundation did not give a clear answer to that. We know they were once in his home, and Crystal can attest to that. But after he became deceased, a number of items were removed immediately from the home, including that private sex diary or sex journal. The foundation did not give a clear answer as to its whereabouts now, and they did indicate in an email to Crystal that sensitive, in quotes, items were put in a box and sealed and are in a secure location. That definitely would be a sensitive item. And they didn't give a clear answer as to whether that particular item is in a sealed box in the possession of the foundation. So we are very, very concerned. Most women would never want, for example, what he wrote in that sex diary or journal to ever be made public. There are, for example, descriptions of certain types of sexual activity that the women engaged in, which I'm sure the women would never, ever want to be made public. So that's a major concern of ours, and we'd like the attorneys general to be looking into that and the security of that sex diary.
Do you know when you're going to hear back from the AGs, what the timeline is on something like this?
That's a great question. I don't know what the timeline of the attorney generals are for investigating a charitable foundation, given the allegations that we made. So that would be up to them to say once they are in receipt of the complaints. Again, for California, they will receive that tomorrow by certified mail, and for Illinois, they received it this morning by email. As far as I'm concerned, sooner rather than later would be better, because we feel, that there is risk to women and possibly underage girls. Are there any other questions? Okay, Julie, would you give a...
Laura, can we
Oh, there's one more. Okay. You can give them out, though. We have copies of our statements. You can just give them out right now. Thank you.
Well, it's possible to ask two questions regarding the topic. Casey Wasserman and Jesse Jackson. Casey Wasserman first. Is he tainted? Should he resign from the LA Olympics?
I understand the allegations, and I'm not going to take a position on that at this time. And the other one, Jesse Jackson. I did know Jesse Jackson. Actually, I have a photograph that I would be happy to provide to you of the two of us together at the Women's March in 2017 in Washington, D.C., which we've just posted on my Instagram. Jesse Jackson, as far as I'm concerned, was a hero in the civil rights movement and should remain a hero in the civil rights movement. He demonstrated so much courage long before many others did, and continuing for many decades. And we live in a shadow, and we will keep hope alive. Now, more than ever. I'm also going to add to that we can't just hope. We have to fight for our rights. Otherwise, we will find that we have no rights and no way to access them. I'm proud to have marched with Jesse Jackson in a number of marches. Jesse Jackson has been here to my office. And I'll save some anecdotes about him for another time.
Just to follow up here on the Wasserman, we've been here many times for press conferences regarding Epstein victims. Why won't you take a stand on whether Casey Wasserman should resign?
I'm going to leave that to others. He has been named. He has been shamed. He needs to take responsibility for what he did and when he did it and what he said. It's a stain on his reputation. And I'll leave it to others as to whether he should resign or not. Okay? All right. Thank you very much for coming. And Julia, we'll hand out some copies. Thank you. Okay.